When you're making your message, hands down, at the end of the day, the most important thing is this: consistency. Because you're not going to have your message going on one channel. There are too many channels available today. We've talked about these multiple times this semester, but as you know, there's so many channels, so many ways you can communicate, so many different types of media. You have the internet, all the 80 million different applications on the internet. You have TV, you have cable TV, all the different Netflix and streaming services. You have billboards, you have sporting events and music events and traditional event things like the newspaper. But here's what has to happen. All of those, whatever you choose, it doesn't matter. You choose where your customer is, but they have to have a consistent message. They have to keep consistency. And so one of my favorite examples, this is becoming much outdated now. If you go rewind the clock all the way back to when Clinton and Trump had their presidential race, not talking about politics here, but you talk about their message. In multiple classes, I've talked about this. And I always say, what was Hillary Clinton's campaign based on? What was her message? Even when I did this the day after the election, the students couldn't answer it, or maybe only one or two could. But if I said, what was President Trump's campaign message? To make America great again. Everyone knows it. Whether you love him or you hate him, it doesn't make a difference. That's not important. What's important is that his message was consistent. And so brands have to do the same. If it's not consistent, it gets muddled and people don't know what they want or what they're trying to sell or what they're trying to buy. And if you can't understand what it is, I'm not going to buy that product. People are lazy. We're tired. We're busy. We have so much stuff going on in our brains. If it takes us more than a millisecond to think about a product and what does that product actually do, we're not going to buy it. It's too much work. It's on to the next one because we all know there's so much competition. There's no reason to waste our time or energy to think about something that's not that important in our lives, which is 98% of the products we buy. Most products don't matter that much. So if I have to think about what is it, I'm not going to buy it. So for that reason, you have to keep your message clear, but it also has to be consistent. So when I see it on Twitter, and then I go and I see it on Netflix, and then when I'm in the store and I see it again, I see the same thing 1, 2, 3 times, I know exactly what it is. But if it's 3 different stories or 3 different messages and they're not consistent, then I'm kind of confused. When I actually do see in the store, I'm not really sure what it is, and then I buy the one next to it, and now you just lost a customer. Because you've done so much research this semester on your customers, and you know the decision-making process that they use during the buying process, we're going to take it one step further. You're going to use that information and put it in a funnel, and so that you can develop the right kind of message. Market research is so important because we're still talking about what is the decision-making process while we're making the message. And you can see how valuable that is. And we're gonna break it down into 4 process steps that your customers go through when buying products. And by knowing the steps that your customers go through, allows you as the marketer to develop a message that connects with them the best. So traditionally, people always thought of like a funnel that came down, and it was under the assumption that all products were think, feel, do. People thought about it first, then they felt something, oh, that's the one I want, and then they bought it. But in reality, we all know that's not true. There's so many products and so many types of customers that we all look at these different. So in reality, there are 4 different types, and we're gonna talk about those here in a second. So an example of a think, feel, do is something like buying a computer. You research it, it's a cognitive product, right? A product that you're thinking about a lot. As you research them, you start to get kind of like, I like this one more than that one based on whether it's the research that you have or for whatever other reason, and then you go and you buy it. The next one's do, feel, think. The next one's everyone's favorite example. It's Costco. What do you do at Costco? You eat samples. Samples are the best thing ever, right? It's a do, feel, think. Do meaning you eat the sample. Oh, that's so good. I love it. You feel good about it, and then you buy it, right? After you buy it, then you think about it. The third one is feel, do, think. This is an emotional buy, like perfume. When you're buying perfume, you smell it. There's something warm inside of you. It smells good. You feel good. You're excited. So because of that reason, you buy it, and then you go home and you think about what you bought. Perfume is a great example. That's why when you go into candle shops, and there are fragrance shops, they always have candles, but they have incense. If you ever walked by Lush in the department store, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It gets in you, oh, that smells good. And then you go and you buy it even though you didn't think about it or you don't need it. And then later you think about it. The last one's feel, think, do. This is like a Super Bowl. If you watch a Super Bowl, none of the ads in the Super Bowl are informative. They're all entertaining. They're either pulling your heartstrings, they're making you laugh, they're humorous. Think of Budweiser, think of Taco Bell, think of Mountain Dew, think about how these commercials are. They want you to feel good or whatever that feeling is. Then you think about it and then you go and you buy it. So if you notice the difference between The last two, the one is getting you emotional, so you almost do an instinct buy. You do sort of an immediate buy. Where the next one, the last one, they get you to feel good about it, but then you do your research and then you buy it. So it's slightly different than the third one. The third one and the fourth one aren't the same. And now you can understand why market research is so important, because if you understand the decision-making process that your customers go through, you can start to get them to consider your products before they consider other people's products. Because consideration is so valuable. We talked about that early in the semester. And the way you can do that is by understanding your customers' decision-making process, so you can develop a message that guides them through this process. You know this is what they're going to do, so you make your message so it fits comfortably with what they're thinking. Once you've got your message thought out and it matches the decision-making process, you have to think about how you're going to communicate it with them. The first one's mass communication. Mass communication is everybody. That is the Super Bowl. The great thing about that is for your bang for your buck, you're going to get a ton of people to hear your message. The downfall of that, of course, is the huge majority of people that hear your message are not your customers. And so you're always kind of playing with that. If you're looking for just massive awareness, it's a great way to do it. But if you're looking to that call to action and get sales, it's not easy because so many people listening are not your customers. The next one is customization. If you still have cable TV and you actually watch cable TV, those of you that do watch it and you go to the unique channels, you notice that the ads are 100% focused on the customers that are watching that channel. There aren't no random ads on those channels for other customers. And that's the beautiful thing of cable for the people that still watch it, is you know exactly who they are, so you can make a customized ad for that group of customers. And the last one is word of mouth, or customer to customer, consumer to consumer. But it's an easy way of saying it was word of mouth. One of the best examples, what happened in early 2010s, was the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Who in here did that? I know a lot of you have done that, or you did that. Myself, I wasn't brave enough to put a bucket of ice on my head, so I spent $100 and called it good. But this is the crazy thing. If you go back and you look at the history of money that they raised over the years, it's crazy how much money they raised that year. They absolutely crushed it. They made so much money. But in today's world, there's a new word of mouth brand that is also crushing it. This one's not a non-for-profit, it's an actual brand, and it's a brand that a lot of you already know, and you maybe even have some of their clothes. Supreme, the streetwear brand. Supreme streetwear brand is crushing it 100% through word of mouth. Look at the ads that they do, basically none. But yet, it's absolutely killing it. Think how hard it is to buy their clothes. As you know, if you go into the store to buy their clothes, it's like $100 for a sweater, you know, it's $50, whatever. It's normal people prices. But then you go to buy the secondhand like the next day, and it's hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars for those exact same thing. But no one knows it unless you know someone who told you about it. That's how you learn about Supreme. They do very, very little ads. They are killing it through word of mouth. I'm envious of how amazing that brand is. What they've been able to do is mind-bogglingly amazing. The most important thing to remember, which we talked about today, is consistency. As I said, you should be able to recognize which brands have consistent messages and which ones don't. And you can see how brands that have consistent messages are so much more successful than brands that don't. And now you understand why you have to remember when you're working in a company and they're talking about their messages, you have to think, are our messages consistent from media channel to media channel? Does everything make sense? Does it match our customer decision-making process? And if you can answer yes to those questions, then you can launch your message, you can launch your brands and your ads. But if you can't, you have to do more research.